I just, oh, I hated that. Morning to you. Hello everybody, welcome back to another I Spy in July video. My name is Christy Grace. I am an author and I am putting a video every day in the month of July about myself, my writing, general life, my adventures, whatever it is that I've planned for this month. Today I am talking to you about books that I hate and or will never read. Not all books are gems. We can't all like them all, obviously, and there are some that were not for me, some that I couldn't finish, some that I hated to read but had to because of school, and there are just some that I know I will never read, and so I'm gonna go through some of those with you guys. There were some books that I have read that I just did not enjoy. In fact, some of them I just plain hated, and I'm going to talk about a few of those with you. Most of them came from school and having to read something in school. I think that when it comes to doing books in school, sometimes it can dissuade you from liking something because you have to study it. Not everything for me has been like that. I still love Rear Window, but I did study it for my media class. But then I watched and then studied The Princess Bride, and I hate that movie. That's a very unpopular opinion, but I hated it, and I still hate it. So I don't like that movie. I think some of it maybe because I had to study it so hard. If I'd have watched it and just watched it, then I may not have just had such a thorough disliking. Anytime anybody mentions that movie, I just hate it. Although there was that one funny bit that we all did in school and that everybody still does and finds hysterical. But you can you guess which one that is for yourselves, I suppose. But when it came to books, I was into really particular kind of books in school, and the kind that we were reading were just not it. I have a much more varied genre appreciation now, which is nice, but back then not so much. So we read books. One of the ones we did was Of Mice and Men. I hated it. I don't know. From what I remember, I didn't enjoy the characters. I didn't enjoy the story. It's more, a lot of the ones we did in school were more so for life lessons and for studying purposes as opposed to just enjoying. And I prefer to just enjoy a book and go into a book thinking, yeah, I might have some thoughts about it, but I want to be able to enjoy it as well. Whereas these were purely just for studying purposes, and that was not a fun process for me. I remember it being just really boring and not interesting, and I just couldn't connect with any of them, and I got frustrated, and it was just dumb. So I didn't enjoy it. Another common popular one that we also did in school was A Lord of the Flies. I hated that book a lot. It was really, I hated that. I hated the story and the characters, and I understood the themes behind it, obviously, because we studied it, but it was just stupid. Honestly, it was just so dumb. Like, I like a good what would happen if type of a story, but this was just horrifying, and a lot of it was really yuck, and I did not like it. Nope, was not for me. Because it was just so stupid. Apart from the fact that it was, look, I could see where potentially stuff like that could actually go down if that was the situation. It just was so, I just didn't like it at all. I feel like I'm not coming out with a lot of actual constructive feedback on these books and why I didn't like them. I've said before in multiple times in general, and I think in one or two of the videos, if you have constructive feedback on how it actually could have been made better or whatever, then that's what I prefer to get and what I prefer to give. I don't have constructive feedback because it's been that long since I've read these books, and I'm just going off of memory of why I didn't enjoy them. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you wanted to read these books or you loved these books, then that's fine, because it's all up to individual preferences, especially with things like books and TVs and music and whatever. But I do just remember these books and remember just really thoroughly not liking them. So this is the limited remembrance that I have of these, and I wasn't so detail oriented in why I hated the books back then when I was in school. So this was what you get. There have been books that I've had to start and just couldn't finish. Not very many of them, to be honest with you. I do try and finish a book and give it the benefit of the doubt. There was, however, one book recently, actually, that I was reading and I just couldn't continue with it. It was Vicious. It's quite a popular spec fic book, actually, about, you know, these two guys who got like powers and were like, you know, bad guys essentially. And I did start it and I thought, what a great, you know, story, but I found it was entirely too dark for me. I'm very particular with the spec fic I read, and this was way too dark. It was just really creepy. And I loved the flashback parts because they were fascinating on a psychological and character perspective. But I just couldn't get past, there was something really dark about this book and I couldn't finish it. Yeah, I'm very particular. I will read books that can be a bit darker, but pick usually those that are written with Christian authors or that I know are from sources that I can trust, because my mind is quite vivid, my imagination is quite vivid, and I need to be really careful with what I expose myself to. So I couldn't keep doing that book, and I was very sad to have to put it down because it was a really interesting concept. There are actually other books like that I know that I will never read, and some of those are going to be hugely controversial, and everyone is going to tell me that I'm crazy. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people say, are you serious? And those are the Harry Potter books. Very, very popular franchise, very, very popular books, and I just will never read them. So I have a very solid line of where I will and won't and can and can't actually cross when it comes to magic type situations. There are some books that I will read with magic in it. A lot of Christian people see the movies and read the books. For me personally, it's not something that I want to and can even do. Other really popular things that I will just not be reading are things like the 50 Shades of Grey series. I am very aware of what these books are, and for that reason I will not be reading them. It's actually, I feel like there's been quite a big debate on those books and what they should technically be classified as, but yeah, I suppose it doesn't really matter. But no, and it's okay that that's not something that I want to read. I tend to go with books that have quite sedate romantic scenes in them, if any, really at all. And I prefer it that way. One of those other ones that comes to mind as well that I was going to mention, which was very popular at the time, is Twilight. So I will never be reading Twilight either. I had several friends when it came out who really liked it and were watching it and reading it, and that's fine for them. Not at all for me. I don't do vampires, not even a little bit. So I have a thing with vampires, and I don't go anywhere near them whatsoever. Obviously, every so often I might pick up a book and go, oh, I didn't realize that was what's going on. Everything these days I find is becoming more intense, whether that's violent, the violence is a lot more intense, the magic is being stepped up 5 million %, because you also get like really great graphics now and you can sort of show them a little bit more, which is really cool. But everything being so much more realistic concerns me, but that's just sort of more in like TV, movies, media. When it comes to books, there's a different level. It's a different flow when it comes to books, and there are some things that I am just going to leave right where they are. But there are other things that I get to read, and I'm really happy to be able to read and excited, like Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes. It just all depends on the character, the themes, all of the stuff to consider when you're thinking about what you will or won't read. And just because it is popular with everybody else, it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to read it, and I don't have to. And I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, which is fine. So, and I love all of these books that nobody has heard of, and I'm like, guys, you read these because they're amazing. So yeah, I mean, I find different books, and that's what I like about being a little bit more particular, is that I get to find some really fun, cool books that maybe not everybody would have heard of. Thank you so much for watching this I Spy in July video on my no-no books, or books that I just will not read or hated. If you have any books that you have read and hated, let me know in the comments below. Or if you love one of the books that I mentioned that I just do not do, let me know why you think it was so good as opposed to why I thought it was so bad. You can check out my social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on Christy Grace Scarlet Pen or Christy Grace Author page. It was really interesting to go down memory lane with you guys. I will hopefully have more content for you really soon. See you in the adventures.